Put your hands on top of your head.
Well, I didn't.
Now! Here comes the jam. Getting down with the truth. The only way he knows how to. Girls all up with his name. We call him the chief. You're damn right. He's gonna get that sucker. Yo, track down the truth. You know what a track down the truth. You know it. What do they call him? We call him the chief. You're damn right we do.
I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Good morning. This is Morning Coffee with the Chief. I am your host, Patrick Jordan, here on Pop Culture Minefield. We're on the YouTube. You can also find us on Rumble. You can find us on Pop Culture Minefield's Facebook page and their Twitter feed. And we come here every Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just a bunch of cops reviewing movies regarding law enforcement and whatever's going on in society today, because we do get in a little political realm here. I just want to give you guys a heads up. My show with KJRA has come to a friendly end. They own the content of all my previous shows on Briefing with the Chief. But I'm going to kick off, starting tomorrow, a new show that is all mine, that I own the content, and I'll put it together. I'm putting a team together to help me do that, and it'll be fun. Tomorrow, I'm gonna focus on. It's not set as a 2 o'clock show. I'm not sure when I'm going to launch it, but we're gonna, instead of doing it live, because I don't have a radio show, instead of doing it live, I'll tape it and then I'll post it up there, and we're gonna play around with the format a little bit and see what we can do. I might do more than one show, maybe one long show during the week, because I do like to break down public policy, and that takes a little bit more than just 20 minutes, and then maybe a couple of short briefs with the chief. So we'll see. Just pay attention. If you were following me on KJRA, Briefing with the Chief, just follow me on YouTube and follow my content there. And Gary's has generously offered me the opportunity to market my show on his platform here at Pop Culture Minefield. So I will do that. Now, you can also find me on X. I've been going on these spaces. There's several spaces. There's Main Street, it meets Wall Street, that I go on occasionally. And there's Political Theater with Walter Kurt. I go on that show. And he's been diving into the corruption in Ohio, just like they found in Minnesota. And he's coming to California soon. He's going to dive into the issues here in California. And he's finding what is important, and I'll probably address this on Briefing with the Chief when I get it, is he's finding the pathways that the Obama administration used, the laws that they used, to start giving money directly to non-governmental organizations, NGOs that are aligned with the Democratic Party, and how that money gets washed through multiple NGOs and back to the politicians in the way of political donations, and sometimes, their family and friends ends up making money on these NGOs. So that's his big effort today, or right now, and he is breaking down that network. There's a whole host of people on X who do the research and combine their talents, citizen journalists that are just breaking this stuff down. It's really amazing. They all could be pretty good detectives if they had they put their mind to it and worked for me in the day. It takes patience and diligence to break that stuff down, because the money crimes are it's about records and tracking and trying to understand how they do the pathways. But anyways, I go on spaces, so you can find me on X at LHD Jordan fairly regularly. And so anyway, so pay attention. I'll certainly broadcast it on this show. But the other thing I want to talk about is Los Angeles Mission. I do this every show. And I want to encourage you guys to go to the losangelesmission.org and make a donation today. They've had some financial challenges there, but they've got their house in order. They got a little better management in there. They cut their costs, and they are better in the black, and they're expanding they're in the black, and they're expanding their services. And they're upgrading the quality of service, which is something I've been pushing for a long time with them. And they've gotten in some strategic partnerships with other missions just to to the economy of scales things, right? So we work together so things are cheaper. So they're thinking a little more like the businesses. So any dollar you spend is being spent, or any dollar you donate will be spent in a thoughtful way to get the best bang for the buck for the people who need the help. So look at the Los Angeles Mission today. So today we're going to do the movie Tombstone. And the reason why I wanted to do the movie Tombstone is it is based upon a true story. Now, the movie is loosely based upon the true story, but the story is really a conflict between local and federal authorities and corruption at the local level and the desire by the federal authorities, in this case, the U.S. Marshals, to weed it out. And I thought it would be a great movie to do. It's a Western based on law enforcement, so it's right up our alley here. But it's a great movie to do because we're seeing a lot of conflict between locals, corruption, and the protection of that corruption in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and the feds coming in to try and clean it up, both the FBI and ICE, because it's related to the migrant communities there in Minnesota. So I thought this would be a great show to inspire a really good discussion about those issues. So let me bring on our guests here. Our guests are retired Sergeant Scott Orr. You guys have seen him before, and he's back again today. Thank you. He's in the volunteer state on his estate, having a good time. Hey, Scott, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
And
My
let's state.
Your estate. Yes, exactly right. Hey, you own a little box in California, and when you go to another state, you get to have an estate, right? You know, that's
yeah, I guess that's true.
All right, let's bring on the other retired Sergeant Danny Coon. He's been on for many times, but hasn't been on for a while. So welcome back to the show, Danny.
Thank you, Chief, for having me back. I appreciate it. This was a good movie. It'll be fun.
It'll be fun, but give a plug for your organization here. I've interviewed Danny before regarding suicides of police officers, but you got something under your name there. Give a plug for your effort, your program.
Thank you, sir. I'm a writer and a blogger. I wrote a book called Broken: Understanding the Effects of Post-Traumatic Stress, and it deals with issues that first responders have in post-traumatic stress. I also have a website, Bulletproof First Responder, which I blog on. I had a short hiatus of about 6-8 months, but now I'm back into blogging again. And again, I'm talking about issues that first responders deal with every day and also dealing with post-traumatic stress and suicidal ideation. And in the future, I am looking forward to, I have gained quite a bit of knowledge and coaching for suicide awareness, suicide ideation, and mental health issues in the first responder community and in the military community. So I'll be looking forward to launching that here soon. We're just in the very basic beginning of it now, but I'm working towards that. So all right, it'll be a fun year.
You heard I'm building a new effort on YouTube, so I'll have to bring you back and interview you, right, when you're ready for that, okay?
When we're ready for launch, yes, sir.
So, all right, okay. All right, hey, we're going to do the movie Tombstone, and I thought it would be a good movie. Well, let me do this show here. So Tombstone was released in 1993, a Western film, and it's based upon a true story. It stars Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, it's got a great cast, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, Delaney, Donna Delaney, and Charlton Heston is in the movie, and Robert Nitro narrates. I mean, this is really a great cast, and there's still more people in this movie that people would recognize that. But it's a great movie in terms of entertainment, but it also is based upon a true story of conflict between locals and the federal government. So local government and federal government, and the local government is hiding corruption. That sound familiar? And the federal government is trying to deal with it, and they're getting resisted by the local government. And there's this tension about who is on the who's legally correct. Hey, how you doing? It's not. Welcome back. So this will be a show. So Scott, what do you think? This tension is going on all the time between federal and local, right?
All the time.
But it is playing out.
It's funny how right now, everybody's like, oh, you got the feds and doing this, and the states are pushing back, and it's been going on since the 1800s. That's 17, Civil War, wasn't that pretty much,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like anything's changed. I think now it's getting a little more magnified, and I think the sides are. Hello, Snorta Poopas.
Yeah, it's
But
it's a tension between states' rights and federal rights, but in reality, in the show, and we'll get into that, but also in Minnesota or Minneapolis, there's corruption, and they're hiding. The local officials are hiding the corruption. They're trying to protect the corruption, right? Whether it's illegal immigration or it's the theft of government funds, right? And we kind of see that in the movie, and that isn't really legitimate tension, right? One is criminal and the protection of criminals, which is what we see in the movie, and the other one is, for lack of a better word for Westerns, they're the guys that wear the white hats, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you have back. If you read books, like I love westerns, so I read a lot of books. But I try to read either historical fiction or historical books, and it's like most sheriffs were paid by, like, if you wanted to control the cattle industry or cattle, you wanted land, you would get the guy that's going to be pro you elected, and it was all about who could spend the most money to get these. And a lot of places had the Republican side of it.
Right.
They had the newspaper, and then the other side controlled the Democratic newspaper. So it was, and in this movie you see that, and if you read the books about Tombstone, it was like based on who did what, how the reporting was which paper was reporting it. It's kind of like CNN and Fox right now,
Yeah, I know. So I think the Earps were Republicans. Now there's a bar, little trivia, one of the oldest continuing operating bars in the city of San Diego. I forget the name of it. It's down by Petco Stadium. I went there, and little dive. But it was a place where Wyatt Earp used to drink, and they got a big picture of Wyatt Earp, and it supported the Republicans. But now as time went on, it also was a bordello, and it was a place that services the sailors. So it has an interesting history, right? But he was listed a Republican, right? And that's that. So he was a Republican, and the other guys were on the other side, right? They were Democrats or whatever they called themselves at the time. But yeah, you're right. It's that tension, and who buys the sheriff controls what's going on, right? And whether he enforces that law or not. And that seems to be what's going on in Minneapolis and Minnesota. To me, what do you think, Danny? Yeah, you see the same thing, or?
Basically, what Scott said was true. It's no different today than it was back then. Yet whoever the controlling party is, and we saw that, or we're seeing that in all the elections across the country, where DAs they don't have really a lot of smarts in the district or in the attorney business, but they're being elected DAs. They're just so far right to the so far to the left, excuse me. And then you have governors. We have one here. You have one in Minnesota, who I hope will be going to jail soon. You have you have these governors that have no business in governing, because all they're doing is skimming off the top of what the taxpayers are paying. And it was no different then. It was no different now. The sheriff back in Tombstone, he wasn't really a sheriff. He was just a political figure who was made friends with the Cowboys. We'll get into that. And was getting paid for it. And that's how tell me how AOC went to having to sleep in her office the first year she was in office in Congress, because she was broke to, a net worth of $20 million now.
Yep. And, so we can go ahead and start rolling the show, Martin. And the interesting thing about at the beginning of the show, so we got to talk a little bit about the show as well, besides the politics of it, is I love the fact that Robert Mitchum narrated this, because here's a guy who, a lot of great parts, good Westerns, and but he does a great job. And the fact that they brought him in, and they brought Charlton Heston, who does a cameo basically in the movie, I thought was fantastic. And they start out by showing these old Western pics. Oh, wait a minute, Martine, you know what? Can you stop there for a minute? You there, Martine? Yes, yeah, you know what? I forgot. Let's do the pictures first. Let's roll with the pictures of who we're talking about. Here's Wyatt Earp. There he is, Wyatt Earp, and And Kurt Russell is sporting a great mustache, a la Wyatt Earp, I thought. And I'm not a mustache guy, but I just think some of the
That's the mustache to dominate all other mustaches.
that is
ever.
awesome. Don't you think so? Now I got a picture of a guy named Crowley Dake. Let's show him. Now you in the opening scenes as Earp comes to town, this U.S. Marshal comes up to him and tries to recruit him as U.S. Marshal, and Earp says, "I'm retired. I'm not doing that anymore." Right? Well, this guy is a true figure, and he was the U.S. Marshal for the area. And here was his issue that it doesn't really come out in the show. He had appointed 2 U.S. Marshals to assist because of the Cowboys, and they had been murdered by the Cowboys prior to the Earps, right? Prior to them getting involved. And so he was beside himself because his guys got murdered and he couldn't stop the stagecoach robberies. And so that's why he tried to recruit Wyatt at the train station there. So he was a real figure, and ultimately he is the guy. He actually swore in Virgil Earp, and but then Wyatt got sworn in, and all the other guys became special marshals when they went on their vendetta ride. But it is a true story, and one of the guys who did the murder of those 2 federal marshal or U.S. Marshals was thought to be 2 of them actually were thought to be responsible for Morgan Earp's murder later in the movie, and they met their end during the vendetta ride. So cool history, though. I mean, you like history, Scott, and this I found this out. I thought it was very cool. Hey Slasher, what do you think? Interesting stuff, huh?
Yeah, I wish they would have put that in the movie, though. It would have made. I think it would have set it up a little bit different than how it kind of comes out in the movie. But yeah, I mean, was it Pat Garrett was brought out of retirement to hunt down people? I mean, after a while, you need some money. So, but Wyatt Earp and his brothers were no angels. I mean,
no. Yeah, they weren't. We're going to get into that. But hey, what is it? Sometimes you need hard men to take care of other hard men, right?
That's true. That's very true.
That's why what do they kind of recruit? They used to recruit law enforcement out of the military because you needed tough people to do a tough job, right? And see, the underrated telling of the story is Doc from 1971 with Stacy Keach. Yeah, that was a good movie. I saw Stacy Keach at church once as Doc Holliday, Harris Yule, and Wyatt Earp. Yeah. So, but here's another one. We got a picture of Doc Holliday. So just talk about Doc Holliday. Now, in this picture, he's sporting a pretty good mustache too. Look at that.
It's not the Doc Holliday I met in Central Jail.
Oh, different kind of Doc Holliday. Did you have a Doc Holliday? Somebody going by that name as a AKA?
One of the I forgot which. He was a Crip, I believe, but he also part of the prison gang, black prison gang. He went by Doc Holliday. I think he was killed in prison. Not 100% sure.
So he didn't die. He didn't die quietly in his bed, right?
He was a gangster. Yeah.
Typical outcome for a gangster.
So Doc Holliday had tuberculosis, but he was actually a dentist, and nobody really wanted somebody with TB working on their teeth. So he had to go into gambling, right? And he went to Arizona. He was from Georgia. Went to Arizona to because that helped with his condition. There is an episode from the original Star Trek series where the crew finds themselves on a Western. Yes, I remember that. Yes, I'm a Star Trek fan too. Thank you, Slasher. Now here's Wyatt with Josie. Now we got to talk a little bit about Josie because the legend of Wyatt Earp would not have occurred without Josie because oh wait a minute, the movie Gunfight and OK Corral, yes, also started DeForest Kelley, who played Doc.
We have
on Star Trek. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting question here from Stacy's Geek. Kurt Russell or Kevin Costner as Wyatt Earp?
Russell. I mean, I like the Wyatt Earp, the movie with Kevin Costner, but I think Kurt Russell pulls it off way better. And I think even had Costner's show come out before Tombstone, I think Tombstone would. What do you think, Scott? Tombstone or Wyatt Earp? Which one? The contrast. Which movie's better?
Tombstone, I think.
What do you say, Danny?
I hadn't seen either one of them until I watched Tombstone a couple of days ago. So
Well, you're gonna have to watch Wyatt Earp and then send me a note. It's Wyatt Earp, Kevin Costner. Now
I would go with Kevin Costner plays more of a, I'd say, Dances with Wolves type of cowboy, where he's more of a baseball guy, where Kurt Russell plays the tough guy. But the best guy that played this in this whole movie was Sam Elliott. But Sam Elliott would have made a good Wyatt Earp too back in the day.
Yeah, you gotta love Sam Elliott.
Oh yes, you do. By the way,
so Sam was doing car commercials, and my beautiful wife was helping to produce those, and she was in advertising in Michigan, Ford, and she didn't show up for shooting one day, and Sam asked, "Where's that girl at?"
Oh, hey.
So I said, "Hey, we're not that far from Sam. We could go meet for lunch, just." So Patty told me that story. I go, "Oh, that's cute." All right, so Josie, if it wasn't for Josie here, I don't think his legend would have continued, because he moved to LA. He met all the TV and movie cowboys, and they did a movie. They did the early movies on Tombstone, which have been repeated over and over again. There's numerous movies on the shootout at OK Corral, but she was the one that kept the flame alive. She's the one that kept pushing the story. And here we go. We got Johnny Behan. Here's the corrupt sheriff, right?
He looks like a corrupt sheriff.
He does.
The other guy had a lot more hair, I'd have to say.
He looked like a corrupt sheriff.
Well, they got younger pictures of him, and he's got a lot more hair here. And Martine, I lost my list of picks. What's the next one up? Just throw the next one up there, and I'll explain who it is.
We have Texas Jack.
That's sure. I had to do these guys because they are real character. Texas Jack Vermillion, and he's. It's a funny story because, yes, he was a gunfighter. Yes, he had killed people. Yes, he was friends with Wyatt. And no, he wasn't from Texas. He was from Virginia. And they asked him, "Why do they call you Texas Jack?" He said, "Well, because I'm from Virginia." So, and a lot of the guys that were fighting with Earp they were kind of Union guys, and some of the cowboys were, lean Southern, right? So that was part of it too. But I had to look at these other characters because they're such an interesting one. And we got the other one, John Turkey Creek Jack Johnson. So there's a really long name. Now they don't show him in his interesting clothes. They show him more in a dapper thing. But he actually did exist as well, and he was a gunslinger and was involved in a lot of problems. So I had to show these little minor characters. They get Sherman McMaster.
Is that guy related to you?
Turkey Jack. When is it John?
Put some glasses on. I mean, it looked just like you.
This guy looks like me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if I had a bowler on, I don't know. And
put a hat on and some glasses.
Now I wonder, when they did these pictures, did the guys go in and they say, "Okay, well, why don't you try these clothes on and get the pic?" You know what I mean? You know how you get.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's because sometimes people didn't have expensive clothes like this, but he's looking pretty dapper there in his outfit. But he did exist, and there were other people, and they don't show it, that were on his vendetta ride as well. Like one of the Earp brothers, Warren Earp, participated, and I can't remember the name of a couple other guys were also. So it wasn't the smaller crew that they showed. They had a fairly larger crew that were aligned with Earp on his vendetta ride. Okay, let's get back to rolling the movie. Martine, thank you. And so here it is, and obviously, I love the narration by oh God, now I'm losing his name here. It's by Robert Mitchum. Does a great job. Now he was arrested, and did you ever see the picture of him in the LA County jail system? The picture of Robert Mitchum. He was arrested for marijuana, and he was held at Hall of Justice jail, and they got a picture of him in the sheriff's museum.
Oh, really?
Looking, you guys didn't know that, and it kind of helped build his bad boy image at the time, being arrested for marijuana, Robert Mitchum. But hey, besides his predilections for bad stuff, I did think he was a great actor. Always enjoyed watching him and enjoyed his narration. I'm glad they included him in this movie. And so hey, I just got to tell you guys. So the format where I did clips, that has to end because YouTube doesn't like that anymore. So we just run we just roll with the movie, and then I'll just bring some stuff up and we'll talk about stuff. Hey, but what do you think of the cast though, Scott? Great cast, right? All these
Oh,
guys.
fantastic. I mean, cast. I mean, Val Kilmer does such a great job as Doc Holliday. I mean, you got Sam Elliott. I mean, you got Powers Booth. I mean, that's a star-studded
Yeah.
cast, which I don't know if you could do that anymore in movies with the cost of paying actors and what they make now. I mean, that's what, 23 years ago that this movie was made.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of famous people.
30 is it 93? So
Yeah, no, 30
yeah.
years ago. So yeah, I don't think you could do that with a cast like this. I mean, all of them are, and most of them they're stars. They're not they're the premier guys. They're not the backup. They're not the character actors. They're real. They were leading men and leading women, and it's like I don't know if they could afford to do that anymore.
Definitely not. This movie, their budget was $25 million.
Wow.
Wow.
Back then.
I mean, you can't even get a lead actor for $25 million.
Yeah, exactly. I just saw a thing last night that who's the black actor? He he was
Name the movie.
Nick Fury in the Avengers. Always saying the F word. Pulp Fiction.
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, he gets paid $20 million just to walk on a set. If it's a major role, it's more than that. I'm like, so $25 million. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I got somebody at the door.
Go ahead.
Made 73 at the box office.
So it starts out. There's a theme that runs through this, right? It starts out where they gun down the Mexican police, right? And they take advantage of the bride that was at a wedding, because the Mexican police dared to shoot them and arrest them, the cowboys. And they had a pretty yeah, that's right. Stephen Lang, Billy Zane, Michael Rooker. He played in he was in the Living Dead, right, or the Walking Dead, and Billy Zane was in what's the movie, Titanic. Yeah, so these are Thomas Hayden Church and even Frank Stallone. Yeah, and there's also the guy from what's that? Jason Priestley's in this one, right? So so you recognize him as well. So, but they gun down the Mexican police here, right? And they shoot the priest, but during part of this, the priest says something, and it's the theme about the pale horse and hell is coming with me kind of thing. And they talk about that at the beginning, when they gun down the Mexican, that hell is coming, right? And then if you watch the movie and watch through the movie, when they go to do the shootout at OK Corral, suddenly there's a building behind them that's burning, right? Remember that? And they're going to do the shootout. And then when they're going to confront these guys, there's another scene where there's a fire in the background. And then obviously when Kurt Russell or Wyatt Earp utters the statement after killing Frank Stell, you tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me. So they have this theme that darkness and hell, and the director kind of weaved it through the whole movie. And that is that very first scene is the harbinger of that this is hell is coming, and this is evil, what is going on. And that's a theme that he built in. Did you catch that at all? Did you?
Yeah, at the beginning, the priest, what he said in Spanish, and he was quoting out of Revelation 6:8, which is, "And I look and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him." He said that in Spanish. Now,
Yes.
The interpreter said to Wild Bill, I think it was his name, he gave him some totally different thing, and he goes, he's just talking crazy. And then Ringo comes back and says, no, this is what he said, and he quoted out of Revelation. So it's the same quote I just did. So, and that did set the tone for all the other violence in the movie, and how everything just kind of snuck up on him.
And the whole thing that we're going to be dancing in hell for the next few months here is kind of what it is, right? And
right. Actually, for the next few years.
The next few years, and that Wyatt Earp is going to be he's judgment for these guys, is what it ends up being, right? And judgment is coming for them is that's what I got out of that, because when I'd watched this movie several times because I like the movie, and when I decided to go back and review it, I caught that, and I remembered the other things about hell coming with me, and then as you watch it critically, you see when they go to the OK Corral, suddenly there's a fire there, and that's just to create this notion that hell is coming and judgment is coming for some of the cowboys there. I mean, that's how I saw it. And, this tells you just who the cowboys are, though, right? When they gun down these mechs, it isn't about, it's about power and control. And the cowboys, they said at the time, they essentially were organized crime, Scott, and they were involved in both sides of the border. And this was a problem on both sides of the border. And that U.S. Marshal Crowley Day that I talked about, ultimately, without necessarily authority, worked with the Mexicans to help crush them too. So he would go across the border and talk to them over the federales. Regulales is, I think, what they call them. I guess regulators. That's rules, right?
Regulators.
Regulales is what they called them. And so. But this is early organized crime. This is not unusual, Scott, right? It's just that it's on horses and they're cowboys, or that's the name they've given them.
Yeah, they gave them, because they were into cattle rustling and horse stealing and robberies, stagecoach robberies. I mean, they were just basically a precursor to the mob. I mean, in New York City. I mean, they were into cheating at certain saloons where you'd go and gamble, but all the games are rigged, so they win 90% of the time, and stealing horses and cattle. And I mean, back then, could you imagine if you stole a car and the penalty was death?
Yeah.
So if you stole a horse or cattle, you were getting hung. So I mean, these guys.
Isn't stealing a horse back then almost a death sentence, depending on where you're at, right?
They hang you for stealing a horse.
Yeah, they hang you for stealing a horse.
Yeah.
The one exception was Wyatt Earp. He got arrested for stealing a horse.
Oh, did he? Well, I think I got to set
this was back in his teens, long before he got into the law enforcement side. He was in a repute side.
Like I said, you need some hard men a little bit to deal with the other ones. But we have to point out, Tombstone at the time had a silver strike nearby. So we had a bunch of miners, and that's what was causing the boom in Tombstone, which brought all the reprobates, as you talk about, Scott, to kind of rip them off at the gambling in the saloons and everything else, right? And the prostitutes. Right, because even some of the Earp women were thought to be like Maddie Belaylock was thought to be originally a prostitute that married Wyatt. So and that Josie had dabbled in prostitution there. So, and Big Nose Kate, a great name, Big Nose Kate, highly educated Hungarian woman who slept around to make money, and she was Doc's one and only kind of permanent woman that he kept in his life for a long time. This is Doc Holliday's lady.
They're all playwives.
They're all playwives. Well, so we see everybody's coming to town, right? The Earps are coming to town. You got Virgil Earp, you got Morgan Earp, you got Wyatt, and here's Johnny Bean, and the town people are meeting them, and they're trying to get them in the law enforcement immediately because they have problems, right? And it doesn't happen. But here's the interesting scene. So I got to ask you this, Danny. So this Billy Bob Thornton is in this movie too, and he kind of plays this bully card dealer, faro dealer in I forget what was the Empress? Yeah, I think it was the Empress bar, right? And he's just kind of bullying people around in the bar, and it's funny. It just plays out when you meet people like that. What do you think? They're insecure. That's why they're doing all that stuff, right?
Right.
And he has to rely on his gun. And Wyatt Earp knows, okay, I've dealt with punks like this before. And he goes in there, was it unhealed? And I got to get the quote up because the quote is fantastic. So we got Billy Bob Thornton. I said loud and insecure, but he goes and he intimidates him, right? And some of the writing is fantastic. And Billy Bob Thornton is kind of pushing back on him, and he's, what does he say? You speak pretty loud, a man who's not healed, meaning a guy who's not carrying a gun. And Wyatt intimidates him, gets right in his face as Bob Thornton is holding onto his gun, and he just says, "Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens." I just love that line. So he's talking about the gun, right? Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens. I think that's great writing. And then after he slaps him and the guy's bleeding, what, you can just stand there and bleed? Guys, that was a fantastic scene.
But Pat, there's nothing better than a well-placed or a couple of well-placed bitch slaps.
I think,
and then grab him by the ear and lead him out.
Come here, youngster. So many. I thought there's so many really good scenes, but I thought that was fantastic, right? And just to embarrass Thornton's character and shame him and challenge him, and then he can't, because the thing about it is they all wanted somebody to pull a gun so that they could say it's a fair fight kind of thing. And I don't necessarily believe that this kind of thing where they weren't wearing guns and they're doing stuff like that, but it's a great scene to show how to deal with a bully. You got to stand up to bullies, right? And they back down, right, Danny? They back down.
Yeah, they back down.
Because bullying is about insecurities in a lot of ways, right? And
yeah.
But I just love the writing too. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
You probably take it from him and beat him with it.
Wyatt Earp, he had like a 20-inch barrel on that cannon he carried.
Yeah, a friend of mine carried when he was working in the city of Detroit, a 45 bunt line, so this long, like 8-inch barrel thing, because they had it's like the Wild West. You can carry what you wanted for a while, but before they went to automatics, yeah, this huge freaking cannon he carried, So just,
oh my God.
What was the longest we carried? 6-inch, right? 6-inch. Guys would get the
I saw an 8-inch once.
Yeah, did you? Well,
yeah.
What was the longest we could carry was a 6-inch, and so guys would get the 357 6-inch. I can't think of what Python was. No, what is it?
686 with the 6-inch barrel.
Yeah, the 686.
Yeah, 686 Smith. Yeah, Smith and Wesson
with the Hoyt holster, so you can just Hoyt swivel holster, so you can set it on your lap leg.
So
I almost bought one of those, and then I'm like, nah, I'll just keep the crappy thing the department gave me. I mean, and then luckily, like 3 years later, we all started getting the Berettas. It's like, okay, thank God I didn't buy the 686, because
yeah, you would have had to. I
would have never carried it. It would just sat in my safe. I would have never carried it or used it again.
I carried the 2.5-inch 686 when I was a detective. It was a nice gun to carry, nice smooth action, easy to shoot, pretty good with it. 2.5-inch. If you're going to carry a small gun, that was because if you carried the 38 ones, it's like they bounce around your hand when you're shooting, right? And that 686 2.5-inch was nice, and it was almost like carrying a 6-inch, right? Because it was heavy enough where the recoil was almost like because we can only carry 38 lows in those 357. So I really enjoyed that gun. It's a great gun. I still have it to this day. But Doc Holliday is coming into the picture here. Doc, I love this scene because everybody kind of has to show up, right? And within 5 minutes, and then you get to see all the characters in the movie, right? But Doc Holliday comes in, and we got to talk about Val Kilmer. So Val Kilmer lost a ton of weight for this, and I think of all of his roles, I mean, I liked him in Top Gun, both movies, and I liked him in a lot of stuff, but I think this is his best part. I mean, he was in The Saint, but I think he did a fantastic job, because this is, in addition to this being a starring role, it's more of a character role. You have to get into this character what they call Doc Holliday, right? And he does a fantastic job. And here we see Texas Jack and Turkey Creek Johnson also show up. They get in a shootout, and so you see all these guys coming in. But I think Val Kilmer best was this. You think this was his best role? Good role, Scott?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I've always liked Val Kilmer, but I think it's probably one of his best roles. I mean, just the whole paleness and the sweatiness from being sick, with tuberculosis, and I mean, I thought he really played it really well for always coughing, and I thought it was great. The first Top Gun movie, I was like,
Yeah.
My wife, I mean, I watched that movie when my son was little, probably at least twice a day. That was his favorite movie. So maybe I just got sick of his role in Top Gun back then. But
Well, he was in The Saint. He played Jim Morrison in The Doors. I mean, he's had some really interesting roles where he had to get into a different kind of character. He had, like, I mean, doing Jim Morrison in The Door, you have to really, I mean, uh, you have to adapt yourself to that role, to that person, right? What is method acting? But I think the Doc Holliday one. Now, there's a little trick he does. Did you see that where he does it with the coin? And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't understand
right.
it, but
And they talked about it. He says, "Yeah, I had done that since I was a little kid. It was just a little thing that I did all the time." I want to say he said did a little bit of magic, but he practiced with that over and over again. Did it, so it was something that he knew how to do for decades, and they became aware of it and they incorporated it in the film, which I thought was kind of a neat little thing. I don't think I have the dexterity to do that, but I think he just and the whole language. I'm your huckleberry, right? You're Daisy if you do. These little, and the fact that they wrote this language and that he pulls it off uh, really well, don't you think, Danny? He pulls it
the
off really
look,
well.
the look on his face the first time he says, "I'm your huckleberry," it's like, wow. I mean, how do you just the look tells you everything
What a
put
really-
together perfectly there. And it's funny because Scott alluded to it after the original Top Gun. I thought Val Kilmer, and I'm based on his actor or on his role, that was an arrogant ass. Kind of like there's other actors that because of the role they played, I don't like them until I actually see them again in another movie.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, like James Wood in The Onion Field. I didn't like him because he killed Ian Campbell. It took me a long time to watch a movie with James Wood in it. But then when I saw Top Gun 2, I go, oh, Val Kilmer, he's really good. And then I seen a couple other movies, and then this one, I go, the guy he was a really good actor, and he definitely did a. Trying to think of his name, the guy in Law and Order. Anyway, he played a couple. He dove deeply into this role.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He had another movie with Downey Jr. and Michelle Monaghan, and he plays a gay private investigator, and it's kind of it's a basically when sister gets murdered and the other girl hired, that kind of thing, and he unravels the whole thing, but he played a really good part, and he's kind of this smart ass gay private investigator that works with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is like this star that's caught up in all of it or something. It was, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was pretty. He played a pretty good role in that too.
Yeah, so I got his thing up. He played in Thunderheart, right? That's that whole.
That was a good movie too.
That's a good movie where we might have to do that one. I think that is one where he's investigating Indian murders on Indian land or something like that.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Is it? We'll have to think about doing that. And he had a bit part in True Romance where he played Elvis Presley. He was in Batman Forever. If we forget about that, and of course Val Kilmer at Heat. Now I really like the movie Heat. Yeah. But I still think this is a better effort than the movie Heat, right? I mean, he did a good job in Heat playing the criminal there. Some of these other ones I don't like. The Island of Dr. Moreau, Dead Girl. Yeah, the Ghost of Darkness. Let's see here. I'm trying to look for the one that you're talking about and see if I can't. Joe the King. So he has so many. The Red Planet. He's got so many movies he did. Hard Cash, Wonderland. Now he played John Holmes in Wonderland. Yeah. That's another one where he had to kind of get into it and look like he's this coke addict, right? Mm-hmm. And this manipulative coke addict. Good job in that movie because we did. Did you do that movie? I reviewed it on here. I don't know if you were with me, Scott.
No.
Mind Hunters. Let's see. I'm trying to look for the one you said. I can't see it right away. But God, he's got such a. The Bad Lieutenant. He played the Bad Lieutenant. I didn't know that. New Orleans. We did the Bad Lieutenant with. Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
and Wyatt Earp's Revenge. So he's got a lot of great movies, and Top Gun was his last one, A Soldier's Revenge. So long history term, but I still think this is his best one. I love for the audience to kick in what you think Val Kilmer's best movie was. But also, we missed it. The scene went by, but we'll have to talk about Billy Zane. Now, he plays an actor or somebody that's part of an acting troupe, right, that comes to town, and they allegedly have a theater. And what does Curly Bill Brocious say? Powers Booth says when he's acting, "That's the prettiest man I've ever seen." So, but Billy Zane, he's a pretty good actor too. He played in Titanic, right? And of course, in this one, this is when he had his hair, but he lost his hair, and we don't hold him anything against him for that because that happens, right? But he's a good actor too, right? Good actor. He ends up getting killed in this movie. And somebody said Frank Stallone was in this one, and I do not remember Frank's character. He played Bill Bailey. Let me see, Bill Bailey.
It was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was what Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. in.
Okay, all right. All right, but here's all of them. And we didn't talk about is Wyatt Earp's. He immediately falls for Josie in this. And when he sees her come down and they interact out horse riding, and she she's with Johnny Behan already, right? She gets attached to the wealthiest guy in town. That's the sheriff. Now so Scott, you read about all this stuff. Back in the day, the sheriff was not only a sheriff, but he was a tax collector. He was, he did all kinds of stuff, and he got to keep a piece of the action.
10%.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you win an election and you're able to keep 10% of the tax, one, there's an incentive for collecting the taxes, which is why the county probably does it. And you can become particularly in an area where you got a silver boom, right? So you go and tax the mine, hey, 10%, dude, you're going to get very wealthy. And my understanding is Wyatt tried to run for that seat at one point, and he didn't win. But and so we talked about the conflict, the political conflict there, which is what we're seeing in Minnesota as well, right? It's all about who can get what. Well, politics is a game of who gets what, where, and when, right? And that's what was going on in this movie with Johnny Behan versus these guys. But they're a tax collector, right, Scott? They did everything.
I mean, like what Danny said earlier, I think before the show, that certain politician went from nothing to $20 million net worth now.
Yeah.
So does it surprise anyone that these politicians end up being? I mean, look at our favorite Bernie Sanders. I'm not a millionaire. I don't make any money. And then a couple years later, it's like, hey, Bernie, are you going to start taxing yourself now because all of a sudden you're a multimillionaire? How's that work?
No. So these are the stakes, right? So, but we see the stakes now today. It's about who gets what, where, and when, and all of the politicians are getting. I just think that it's gotten so greedy. And nobody was looking for so long that it's so prevalent. You heard me lead in where I talked about a friend of mine is doing the investigation in these NGOs, and it's just outrageous how much money has flowed to them. And it's like, initially when the Obama administration kind of set it up, it was to funnel money to campaigns so that they could win, right? And that when they are out of office, they can just slide administrative people onto NGOs and slide them back when they win, right? So they can continue to control things as much as possible. But it's about greed. When I start looking into the NGOs, all of them are making $150,000 to $250,000 a year, and that doesn't include their benefits. So they're making good money, all of these people who are Democrats. And so when we talk about what was going on in Tombstone at the time, that same kind of thing is what is playing out now. Who gets what, where, and when. And when it gets out of hand is when we have this conflict, right, Danny? When it gets a little bit out of hand, when it just pisses off the people start pushing back. And in this case, Trump, he's a billionaire. I don't need any more money. So let me hammer these people who are ripping off the system, right? And
he knows he's not going to run again, and he's got a bunch of money. You don't need it. But, you go back and let's look at the tax collectors. First of all, imagine you being a young deputy sheriff for Los Angeles County, back when Los Angeles County went all the way to the Colorado River.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
All the,
Taking
way
your
to the
post because
Mexican, all the way down to the Mexican border to the Colorado River. That was a wide area.
Yeah, there was a
Could you
Sheriff
imagine?
Barton. Sheriff Barton
Sheriff-
got killed with three of his deputies, right down,
in
and
Orange
that was
County.
in Orange County.
Yeah. What is now Orange County? Yeah,
Yeah, what is-
Northern
oh.
Ranch. What is now Irvine Ranch? But yeah, just riding out there. But on the offside, yeah, forgot his name already.
Yeah.
The guy that the sheriff. Okay, when he became a sheriff of Pinal County later on in life, and he was raking in $50,000 a year, which in today's money would be equivalent to over 1 point some odd million.
Right.
Just in tax collections.
Right.
And
Oh,
why
you're
they're
talking Virgil or Virgil? No,
not
Virgil.
Virgil. Who was the sheriff at Tombstone when they showed up?
Oh, Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bean.
Bean.
Yeah, he became sheriff down in Pinal County or something like that. And Wyatt Earp was collecting taxes for him for a little while, and Wyatt Earp was collecting a pretty little bundle of money.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah. This
So
is some of this was
money in tax collection.
Yeah, who gets what? But it also as Crowley Dake, our U.S. Marshal, had the theft. Hey, it's okay if you're getting rich legally, but this whole theft of people's property has got to stop, right? And that's what the cowboys were doing, right? And that's the part. Hey, Bean was making money. He could have got enough people to shut them down, but he was making money off them too. But we got to talk about the love interest. Here's Josie, and I thought I like the writing, right? So. She comes in the bar, she's dancing with some folks, and Doc Holliday sees that Wyatt is really interested in her. Now, Wyatt is married, right? And Wyatt says, nope, I'm married. And she kind of flirts with him, and he doesn't react. And what does Doc Holliday say? I stand corrected, Wyatt. You're an oak.
Was it White or Doc Holliday said that, or was that Morgan?
No, that was Doc Holliday said that about Wyatt. I stand corrected, Wyatt. You're an oak. And he knows he's gonna sleep with her, right? And but he just I love a lot of this writing. And this what I think about this is this ended up being a love story that went on for a very long time. Now he dumps his wife. She goes and dies of laudanum or whatever she's doing. And he stays with Josie all the way to the end. They travel all over the world. They go up to, if you do the research on him, that he goes up to Alaska with her during the gold rush. He's all over the place, and he ends up in Los Angeles in the 1920s, and he's still with Josie. So if you think about this, I forget, this is like, God, it's the 1880s in that area. I can't remember what year it was, but and so another 40 years they stay together, right, and end up in Los Angeles, and he ends up befriending the people in Hollywood, and this is the beginning of the silent westerns, and he becomes friends with the western folks, as they talk about at the end of the movie. But she stayed with him all the way. So this is a love affair. I'm not really into the whole Disney love affair thing, but this is the people who stayed together and clearly liked each other and stayed together for a very long time. So Wyatt was not an oak for very long, right? But I just love the way this is great interplay between friends. Oh yeah, I stand corrected, Wyatt. You're an oak. I could just imagine guys teasing each other in a bar, right, and saying that. Maybe not quite that phrase today, but this interplay would happen. So it not only does it talk about Wyatt being really fallen for her, but it talks about your friend just digging at you, right? Because of
well, that's the biggest thing I miss about the job, Pat. I don't miss the crime or dealing with other people's crap. And but it's I miss the interplay of all your buddies busting each other's balls. I mean,
yeah.
That was the fun part of the job, is giving each other crap. I mean, and it was you could tell when it was being mean. Somebody was wanted to mess with you, but your core group of guys, like we used to have such a great time, busting each other. You and Johnny B in the offices, giving each other crap. I mean.
That was
the best part of the job to me, was the camaraderie.
It's funny because I had a reputation of being very buttoned up pretty tight, right? And but as soon as we got into the executive offices behind the doors, where it was Scott, Johnny B, and the rest, I could relax a little bit, right? And I went to work with somebody else, and so I had that reputation being. And then we got in the ex's office, and we had a good time. The secretary, we always laughed, and my lieutenant's the best guy I ever worked with. And but that was just my reputation. I had to feel comfortable around people before I could. Well, it's a bad term for me, let my hair down. But just
I think at this point we're all in the same boat, Pat.
Yeah. Well, but you know what,
So
and
you
that
hang out with Johnny Beham, huh?
Johnny B, yeah, John Bayless,
Yeah, Johnny Beham.
Well, it was funny when Scott got hired. John was working for me as an operations lieutenant, and John had an eye for the girls, right? And so we had to pick an operations sergeant, and of course he calls out a couple names of girls, right? And I go, John, they do a good job, but do me a favor, survey all the lieutenants and see who the best writer is, right? And who gets their paperwork done on time. Let's at least do that, right, before we start picking people. Sure enough, Scott's name, it hits everybody's list, gets his paperwork done on time, and it's thorough and it's done right the first time. And he comes back with the list, and he says, the name comes Scott Orr. Well, what do you think, Scott? Well, I don't know him. I said, well, let's give him a shot, right? And so enough, of course, what do we end up as my operations lieutenant? This Viking-looking guy who played, football at Montana State, and they had a blast together for the next couple of years. Both hard workers, good guys, and we were really relying on our ops staff at the time to get stuff done because we were very lean at that. We were lean at that bureau. Yeah, and so everybody was busy, and those guys had a great time, but they got the job done, right? So that's an example of, hey, let's pick based upon merit, and then they had a blast together for a couple of years, right?
Oh yeah, me and John. I mean, we got our stuff done on time. We laughed and joked the whole time, but the deputies knew if they had to come up to the operations office, it wasn't for a good reason.
All right.
Even other sergeants, I'd have them come in, and I'm like, dude, why am I handling your crap? We're the same rank. Go do your job. I'm tired of doing it for you.
They held their sergeants and lieutenants.
Friends doing that kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm not here in the friends business. I'm here to get my stuff done.
And that was it. We held our people accountable. We did it with a smile, and it was never malicious, but it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. But I got to do this scene before we take our break. And one of the other best scenes is when Johnny Ringo does his gun display, right? and everybody's like, oh, Johnny Ringo, and they're impressed with his gun display, which of course we would never tolerate. Any real cops, anybody would tolerate that stuff in a bar, flashing their gun around like that. But it's designed to intimidate Doc Holliday, right? Who's also has this reputation as gunslinger, and I love the comments, because first it's a challenge to Wyatt Earp, and Wyatt Earp says, "No, I'm retired." Right? Remember that part of that scene? And then Johnny Ringo says something to Doc Holliday. "What are you? You retired?" And he's got this pale face, sweating. "No, I'm in my prime." I just think that was hilarious. "No, I'm in my prime," and then he does a little right, and then he does a little gunplay, and then Doc Holliday. What does Doc Holliday do? He mirrors it, but with his drink glass.
Yes,
drink glass.
Tin coffee.
And everybody's watching, and he thoroughly diminishes. And I say humiliates Johnny Ringo, but he does it in a way that Johnny Ringo can't react, right? And everybody gets a chuckle out of it, and he's not in his no way doesn't mean he's backing down or is he afraid of Johnny Ringo. I think that is a great scene. What do you think, Scott?
Oh, it's a classic, because here you have this guy, comes in and he thinks he's just the ultimate gunslinger, and he's trying to show everybody what a Billy badass that he is, doing this whole thing, and then he's looking at, trying to intimidate Wyatt. He's trying to intimidate Doc Holliday, and then he takes his tin cup that he's drinking out of and does the whole thing with the tin cup. It's like, You totally took this Billy Badass guy from here and he whoop.
I thought it was a way of just diminishing and
Yeah.
humiliating a guy without saying a word. That
Yep.
I thought it was a great scene. It was a great scene, and I think Val Kilmer pulled it off. What do you think, Danny?
Think about how much did they have to practice. Michael Biehn, he had to practice for days doing that. Same thing with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
I could
I'm
barely
sure
like twirl a 38 in my hand, and these guys are all kinds of tricks. It was awesome.
There was I was watching the show and they talk about the stars actually do practice quick draw. That when these guys doing these Western things doing quick draw. Not that the quick draw really means you're going to hit anything, but they practice quick draw. But you're right. There's a lot of practice by both sides on this, but it was a great scene because it diminished what was potentially a dangerous situation with laughter, right? Which happens all the time, mocking laughter. So great scene. Hey, but we are at the halfway mark, and all of us senior citizens probably need to hit the bathroom. So, Martine, are we ready for our break?
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys in a couple of minutes.
There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all. Movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield. Where they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then. There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all. Movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield. Where they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then.
Well, we are back on Morning Coffee with Chief reviewing the movie Tombstone and having a great time with Danny Coon and Scott Orr. I'll say, Martine, I think that one of the best scenes in this movie is this whole Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday thing. I want to ask you what you thought of that movie or with that scene. Would you say it's one of the best scenes in the movie?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but definitely but the movie has so many good scenes.
Yes.
So it's hard. It's hard to say that any scene is not a good scene here, because
right.
Man, this movie's gold.
Yes, it is. Well, yes, it is gold. All right, guys. So let's now. I needed to, so we got Curly Bill's coming up here, right? I don't think we're in the scene yet, but he. One of the things that in a lot of these mining towns and a lot of the boom towns that was acceptable is opium dens. So the Chinese started coming to our country and they were exploited to build the railroads, as we hear in history. But they started building communities in many of our cities, and with them came opium. They would form opium dens, and you see that in the movie here in Tombstone. And that Curly Bill goes into an opium den. He gets high, and he goes outside and he starts shooting at everybody, right? And he ultimately shoots the town marshal, White, I think his name is. Let's see, Charlie White, I think is the name of the town marshal. Fred White, an older guy, and who's a real guy. And this all did happen. And when I did the research on this, they were actually the town marshal he wasn't connected to either faction. He wasn't Republican. He wasn't Democrat. He got along with everybody. That's why everybody liked him as the town marshal. Even he got along with the cowboys, at least in town. He was able to manage them, which is why he was, he worked well as the town marshal. Now, I personally think when I watch the scene, I think Curly Bill did that on purpose. I don't think it was an accident. I think, he might have been a little bit out of it on drugs, but I think he actually knew what he was doing when he handed his guns to Fred White that way and ultimately killed him. And but the big part of it, the opium dens did exist, and they showed it a couple times in the movie. First, obviously, when Curly Bill Brocious gets intoxicated and ends up killing Fred White, the town marshal. But also later on, when White does his hunt and he ends up killing one of the cowboys in an opium den, which didn't happen. But opium, it was when you look at the 1840s and 1850s, they had the opium wars in China, the British versus the Chinese, and Britain controlled the opium trade. The interesting thing about this is you understand why China thinks it's okay to poison America with fentanyl, because it was done to them by the British with opium. The Chinese wanted to close off opium from coming into their country, and the British said, no, that's our big trade thing, and we make a lot of money off that, and forced them to open up their markets and accept opium as a product in their country. And then, of course, Chinese got addicted, but they exported that habit to the U.S. and they exported, because we had Chinatown in L.A., of Chinatown in San Francisco, and opium was part of what came with these Chinese communities. So opium, it's been around for a long time, right, Scott? And it's not unusual in the Old West. I don't even think it was probably illegal at the time. It was just considered. We didn't do scheduled drugs at the time. It was probably considered okay, right?
Well, look at She's Hooked on Laudanum, which I don't know. I think it's basically an opium-based product, which was sold, at the drugstore. Same with brothels.
Yes.
I mean, my wife and I actually had a conversation about a week ago. We were driving up a 2-hour drive up to see her brother, and we talked about, why is prostitution still illegal? I mean, who's really there's no victim. I mean, the guy's paying money for a service, he's receiving that service, but because it's prostitution, now it's human trafficking, which I get if there's somebody, making them do it, but if it's something like these brothels were wide open, I mean, but that's where everybody went. If they couldn't get a girl, they went to the brothels, and drugs were legal, and alcohol, and
well, it was pretty much legal in these towns, right? Everybody turned a blind eye to it. If you study the Old West, it was like 3 men for every woman, right?
Right.
So there weren't no wallflowers. Women were a valuable commodity, right? And this is if their husband died, there was very little ways for them to actually make money in these tough areas. So switching to prostitution was accepted. I think why is it illegal? I think that's a holdover from our Puritan kind of roots in terms of how we see that stuff, and I think the fact that we don't put a lot of effort into stopping it, it's tacitly legal, right?
Right.
But I think there's a lot to be said about maybe controlling it, because right now people are exploited. Women and children
Right.
are exploited, and they're not getting the money, right?
No.
And
Well,
it's somebody else is
if you-
getting it, right? And
yeah, it's that's so true. And but back then it was like, hey, you know, you got this silver boom going on around Tucson.
yep.
So all these men, the women aren't coming to mine for gold or silver or copper, whatever they're. So what do guys want when they've been working so hard in the mines? They want sex and they want alcohol or something, you know, opium or whatever they can do to take their cares away for however amount of time. So
I think we're at the scene now where I think they've accepted being the town marshal at this point, because there's other things. So we had the town marshal, we had the sheriff, and then we had the federal marshals, right? And so they decide after Fred is killed, and we got to talk a little bit about when Fred is killed, and because I think another great scene is when Fred is killed and Wyatt comes out, and he grabs Curly Bill, and he's going to take him to jail, and he says he's going to be tried, and the miners first want to come and lynch him, and he gets them to back off, and then the cowboys come and tell him you're going to release him, and he puts his bunt line, 45 right to Ike's head and said, "You may get me, but not before you may rush me and get me, but not before I turn your head into a canoe." Great line. Great line. And Ike's character, God, we gotta where's Ike, where's the actor? Because you can see it, it's Stephen Lang. Great. You can see the fear in his eyes, and he says, no, he's bluffing. No, yeah, it's easy for somebody else to say he's bluffing when the gun is not pointed at that guy's head, right? It's pointed at Ike's head. He says, no, he's not bluffing. And sometimes that's the way it is. Yeah, okay, yeah. You might get me, but I'm taking a couple of you guys with me, right? And that's what he says, and they back off. Here's what I talked about earlier in the scene where they're going down to the OK Corral. But this starts the argument. They take Booth to prison, and this starts and they decide to step in to be the town marshals, and they embrace a gun control. Gun control. Yeah. It sounds like Minneapolis, right? Gun control. One of the most gun-controlled cities in the town, and they embrace gun control in town. No guns in town, right? You can still own a gun, you just can't carry them in town. So, and this is not unusual, right? This did happen in these old towns, but I thought it was funny. So our Republicans here try to control the guns in town, and that upsets the cowboys who actually use the guns to commit crime, right? So it's not like these are honest, hardworking miners who just want a gun to protect themselves from somebody stealing their silver. These are criminals who are intimidating the town. And this ultimately leads to the gunfight at the OK Corral because they want to disarm them. Now, we talked about a little bit about the scene. As they're walking up, you see the building burning in the background, right? So hell is coming with me, right? This is hell is coming, right? That's what the priest said in the beginning. You're riding in with hell, right? And this is okay. This is Judgment Day, as I think Earp says later on, or not Earp, Doc Holliday. It's a reckoning, right? So they're going and they're disarming them, but they think they know that their aggressive tactic is disarming is pushing the confrontation, right? So nowadays, all the liberals begin, oh my God, they didn't de-escalate. They're supposed to de-escalate. I watched. Did you ever hear that? You see a shooting? Well, it's a legit shooting, and they said, well, why didn't the deputy or the officer de-escalate? That's the first word, and this is an Obama word. Well, we need to teach our officers to de-escalate, and then it's become an unrealistic standard. You got to de-escalate everything to the point where, well, you take the first couple of rounds, and then we'll say that you tried to de-escalate. I mean, that's where it's at. Put yourself in danger. That's de-escalation for liberal left, is put yourself in danger before you take action, instead of responding to what you perceive as danger. It's just become unrealistic. And the left would be screaming at this guy, how come the Earps didn't de-escalate? They should have de-escalated and not gone down there. But
my son, who's a cop in California, he has a card that he has to carry around, and he went to an 8-hour class on de-escalation, and he has to carry this card in his uniform, and it has all the steps you should take before you use force.
Right.
I'm like, what? And they can't shoot at human form targets. So now everything's a bowling pin, and it can't have any color. Yeah.
Oh, so they changed the background so you're not shooting at it. Oh my God.
Yes.
We've gone crazy. We've gone out. This is crazy.
Background has to be white paper. That's okay, with the black outline of a bowling pin, basically.
You go back to when we first went to mobile ranges. The left was crying that we're shooting black people because our targets were cardboard with a black silhouette on it.
Right.
When we went to the mobile ranges, they sized the mobile or the targets to the size of the 40-foot range. And so then the left started saying, "Oh, now they're teaching their cops to shoot baby black kids." Well, what the hell is that all about? So right on with Scott. It just makes me think right now. Something I saw a couple of days ago is these guys didn't have to write a memo every time they pulled their gun. Not like what's going to happen on February 1st.
Yeah, it's just crazy, the whole de-escalation thing. But in our shooting, okay, so we get they go and they confront the McClarys and the Clantons, right? And everybody's tense. Everybody's got their hand on their gun, right? And this is what it's when Doc Holliday. This is great when he does the wink. He does the wink, and that starts the gunfight. It ain't pulling the gun; it's the wink, the little humiliation. Hey, I'm your Huckleberry, without saying I'm your Huckleberry, right? Just that little wink, and then the gunfight starts, right? And you hear White says, "Oh no," because he knows it's coming, because they've already he can see in their faces they're going to pull. At least one of them is going to pull, and when they do, the gunfight starts. And now I love westerns, but I have to tell you, 6 shooters that shoot 12 rounds without reloading, it's that part, is always unrealistic, right? Because I think Doc Holliday must have had, he was shooting with a 9mm or something. How many rounds he fired off, right?
I don't remember OK Corral being that big.
No, yeah, right.
Tombstone, it's not very big. It's not like this, like My Darling Clementine in
yeah.
I mean,
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford. I mean, it's like
Henry Fonda. Yeah.
Fonda, yeah. And it's like, man, that's like a huge And then we go to Tombstone. My mom lived in Tucson so we drove down to Tombstone, of course, and I'm like, wow, the movies really make this thing feel like a coliseum compared to what it really just a small little area.
Yeah, so they were probably contained, right? So they're squished, right? And so easier to shoot. It's never, when they're spread out like that, you got multiple targets, but when they're closer, it's easier to hit them, right?
Right.
As we know.
No, they're a point shooting anyway, so you got a 25% chance of hitting something.
Right. Right. But yeah, and it's and that's the other thing. Some of these guys did serve. I trying to remember who's actually served in the military. I think Virgil did.
Elliott. Yeah. Sam Elliott did.
I mean, like for the Union and all of that stuff. I think Virgil did. I don't know I think Doc might have. I don't know. I can't remember now. But so how many of these guys actually had real training in shooting, right? And instead of just getting mentored by their brother or their dad in the backyard, whatever. Probably none of them. Some of the Cowboys, maybe. I don't know. And then, as we all know, shooting is a perishable skill, right?
Yeah.
You don't shoot all the time. You're not quite as good. But the Earps and Doc, so Doc had the shotgun, and almost every time you see the reenactment of this, Doc is shown to have the shotgun, right? I think you're talking to My Darling Clementine. I think he started with the shotgun, and some of the other ones, Doc always starts with the shotgun. And for me, if I'm going to something like this, I want the shotgun. I wouldn't have given the shotgun to Doc. I said, no, I'm keeping this, and he used it to great effect. The guy was hiding behind the horse. I think some of the previous reenactments, they do show that, where one of the guys is hiding behind the horse, and Doc has to scare it off with the shotgun, the horse off by shooting the shotgun, and then killing him with the shotgun. So that's probably the best weapon they had that they went down the street with, right? And because you get the spread, right? So you get the spread. Right. But yeah, a good scene, good shooting. I like how they, as the shooting's going on, they're seeing the facial expressions, the expression of, you see the fear in Morgan Earp's eyes as he's in this shooting, right? And Wyatt's a little more steely, and Doc is having a good time. That's how I saw it. I mean, that's what I saw. What do you think, Scott? He was having a good time with this.
He had that attitude as, oh, I live for this shit, man. This is right up my alley. But think about it. If you're Doc Holliday, you know you're dying from tuberculosis and you can go at any time, right? So
Yeah.
what do you really have to lose? So it's like, hey, I'd rather die in a gunfight than die in a bed with tuberculosis, right? So he's like, hey, this could be my, reckoning. I get to die with my boots on. I got to die like a real gunfighter. But
That's right on, Scott. Yeah, and at the end of the movie, when he did die, he's looking down at his toes. He didn't die
Yes.
with his boots on.
he didn't die with my boots on.
Yeah, he's looking at his toes, wiggling his toes, and he kind of had that look as, where's my boots?
Yeah. Oh shit.
This is after the shooting, and Virgil's been shot, I think. But I got to go back. I got to talk about one line that I thought was freaking fantastic. That and this is Doc Holliday's playing poker with Ike. Now you guys know where I'm going with this, right? Playing with poker with Ike, and Ike loses another hand. Nobody's that lucky. 12 hands. What does Doc say? Maybe poker's not your game. But I tell you, how about a spelling contest? That was hilarious. How about a spelling contest? I thought that was hilarious. And of course, Ike gets mad because he's an illiterate cowboy, right? He's not smart. And Doc Holliday is a trained dentist, right? He went to college. He graduated college, and he's originally from Georgia. But and I think one of the other lines that I missed as we were steaming through this is when the Earps are going down and getting in the fight, and Doc is a little sick, and but he comes out anyways, and because this shows the tightness between Doc and Wyatt, right? And Wyatt says, "Hey Doc, you don't have to get messed up in this," and Holliday says, "That is a hell of a thing you could say to me, right?" And how could you do that? I'm your best friend. You're going down there, stare down death. I'm going with you. That's just the way it is, So I like that. I and you see it almost every time. Whether it was remember who was it was Burt Lancaster played Wyatt Earp in a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie at this point. And it was the same kind of interplay, right? You see this tightness between Doc and Wyatt Earp, and they were really friends. And just the same thing, the closeness between Wyatt and Josie too. He had a relationship, and the guy was like a brother that wasn't a brother; he was his best friend, right? And I just love that line. That's a hell of a thing you say to me, and I'm going down there with you, right? And I think this is the scene where everybody's, people are shot and they're recovering, and Wyatt realizes, boy, this is not a good situation, right? And they're outnumbered. The Cowboys have got them outnumbered. They killed 3 of them. They know they're going to be targeted, and so they know. Even though hell is coming, maybe for them, right? And that's so that's kind of a tough thing. You think about it. You're sheriff in town. Remember, I did High Noon with Johnny B and Matt Rodriguez. We reviewed it. And I just thought some of these old Westerns showed what was going on. And High Noon was Randolph Scott was by himself. He'd cleaned up the town, sent some people to prison. Those people are coming back, and they're targeting him. And the townspeople's way of handling it was, well, why don't you just leave, Marshall Kane? Just leave, and it won't be bad. Kind of like we cleaned up all the crime from in the 80s and 90s, got it down in the the 2010s and 2014, got it down to the lowest it had been in our lifetimes. And then then there was the betrayal of the Democratic Party of police officers, right? They kicked us to the curb, called us all a bunch of names, said that we did all these bad things, and defunded us, just told us to retire and go. And then crime increased. The criminals came back, and they wondered, "Oh, how did this happen?" That's why
you still have these politicians. I mean, what's her name in Texas? Crockett or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, we need to get rid of all police. There shouldn't be any police on the streets. They should only just be investigating crimes.
Yes.
What? And people vote for you? I mean, even if I was on the other side, looked at things from their perspective, I'd be like, what kind of sense does that get rid of all the cops and just have them do investigations? That means the crooks can just rob and kill, and we'll just wait for all that to happen, and then we're going to investigate it. That's like the most asinine things, but people still vote for it. I mean,
Yep. And we've been through it. So after the shooting, the Cowboys become sneaky, and they start targeting the Earps, and they shoot Virgil. I think his left arm, right, and he loses the use of his arm, right, and then they actually kill Morgan Earp. So this is all true stuff. So they're targeting the cops who killed their people, and they're doing it not straight up head to head, sneaky. Back shooting, as they call it back in, right? That was back shooters. They were back shooters. And the Earps, but the Earps aren't done. They're going to get their revenge. They just want people to, I thought this was as they leave town. I think this is the scene where they're leaving town. And
they got tried in real life. They went to court.
They yeah, an inquest, and people supported them, right? And they were acquitted, right? Because the townspeople came to support them. But as they're leaving, they've already been appointed U.S. Marshals. They know what's going on, but they want the Cowboys to think that they're beat, right? That's what I see in the scene. And he takes Virgil to the train station with the women. But here's the thing, leading up to this, as they're targeting the Earps, they target the Earp women, and this is where some of the other people who are kind of on the sidelines. So that's enough. We see one of the Cowboys, Sherm McMaster, says, this, I can't do this. And you saw him in the opening scene. He was uncomfortable with what they did to the Mexicans, right? Sherm McMaster. And he says, I'm with you. And he throws down his sash, right? And he later gets killed. But this is where our interesting characters come out. Texas Jack, and let's see, what's the other guy's name? Is Turkey Creek Johnson, right? This is where these interesting characters that they had met in other Western towns and were friends with Doc and friends with Wyatt, and said, we're with you. So the thing about Westerns, which I liked about Westerns when I watched them, is because there was a lot of the older Westerns, there was clear good guys and clear bad guys, right? And that's, you like that, right? You kind of grow up with these values. There's the white hats and the black hats. And then over time, these Westerns kind of, you had these kind of, these anti-heroes, the guys who are heroic, but they ain't perfect, right? And that's what we're talking about here. The Earps were not perfect. The Texas Jack and Creek Johnson, they went on to do some shady stuff too, but
didn't Earp leave Dodge City or whatever it was because of some shady shit? And it was like, hey, you need to.
Yes.
Thanks for coming and cleaning it up, but you're now starting to be like them, so you need to need to go.
Well, as you see, when he comes to Tombstone, he wants to make money. It's about making money. I don't want to, and if it's a little bit on the shady side, that's okay. But I don't think it's in their nature to, because you see with Virgil, he goes, well, we have to have some law and order, right? Some law and order.
Virgil was the true lawman of the group.
Yeah, probably, because he went on to continue being a lawman even with his bad arm. Right.
He was a lawman before that. He was a lawman up in with Illinois or something like that, wherever they came from, and after the Civil War. So he was the true lawman.
Yeah, and Sam Elliott, we got to talk about him. He did a great job, and he wasn't the primary guy. He was more of a supporting character role, but he played a really good Virgil Earp. I just love him. And the Sacketts, remember the movie The Sacketts with him and Tom Selleck, he played in this. He played a movie, The Sacketts, the cowboy movie, and where they were brothers. One fought for the Union, one fought for the Confederate, but they come together and fight bad guys. But I just think the whole Westerns where they're, where it was the older Westerns where there was clearly the white hats and the black hats, and then you move on to Westerns like this, where it's kind of, there's a little bit of crossover here, right? There's a little bad stuff on both sides. But
you look at, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Was Clint Eastwood really a good guy or a bad guy? No, and that was a movie made a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you go to the 2018 version of The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington, the character he played, actually, there was money in bounty hunting back then, but he was pretty shady too.
Yeah.
He would do the right thing to get the money, but then after that,
I don't think that was better than the Yul Brynner one, though. I have to say the original Magnificent Seven was great.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
between the
it's
two,
hard to read. It's hard to redo classics, right?
Yeah. Well, here, so as we move on so they get on their, what I was leading up to is they moved out of town, and of course they know they're going to be targeted, and they're waiting, and they do kill Frank. They do shotgun Frank Stillwell, one of the gang members, as he's trying to target their family as they're leaving. So they knew, and this is where he gets Ike to throw down his gun, and he does the whole spur thing on his face. That was a great scene where he cut up in his face with his spur. Tell him I'm coming, and tell him hell's coming with me. Probably the greatest line for Kurt Russell in this story, that hell's coming with me. And this lines up with the whole theme of hell, right? We're in this hellish experience in this time in Cochise County in Arizona, and hell's coming with me. And he does launch his vendetta ride. And he uses, he doesn't use de-escalation tactics, that's for sure. So
but again, sometimes, people ask me, about policing back when I
first
with the areas that I worked, and I said, sometimes violence has to be met with violence.
Yes.
You're not actively seeking it, but sometimes a little slap on the hand where a slap on the face is needed.
Yeah.
So can't just you're dealing with predators. they're predators. So you have to deal with predators like you would deal with any other predator. And people don't want to see that, and they don't want to hear that. They want the cops to just, slap the wrist and tell them to do better or be a better person. Or sometimes you got to punch them in the face, get their attention.
It's the interesting thing. So my initial plan was to get my degree and then go into law school. And then once I got my degree, I realized if I put as much effort into the law enforcement career versus a law degree, I'd probably make more money. And I think because I was looking at what's the average lawyer make. They don't, a lot of them don't make a lot of money now. My brother-in-laws are doing great; they kill it, right? But for me, I wouldn't say getting into a law enforcement career was a natural thing. When I had to do the whole tough thing, I had to get into a role to do that. For me, that was not my nature. But when you're facing the situation, all right, I can do this. You slip into a role, right? And I always felt law enforcement was you're slipping into different roles, right? Sometimes you got to be compassionate for the situation going on, understanding, but when it's time to throw down, you got to throw down. That there ain't, and you don't back off, right? So for me, it was slipping into the role, like you said, Scott. Hey, there's times you got to meet fire with fire, but that isn't naturally. For me, it wasn't the natural thing. I was capable of it, but I wouldn't. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of guys where they're really capable of it. But I wouldn't say that it's for a lot of cops, it's the first thing that they turn to. They have to actually shift in that role because it's different. I don't know, Danny, what do you think of that? It's
you're acting. It's one big act the whole time.
Yeah,
because you have to slip into different. You can go I can go from zero to from no force to talking to probably excessive force in about 10 seconds. But
yeah, when you feel you have to.
But it has to be that way. But also you can get right up to 9 seconds and they go, okay, we're far enough now. And then you have to go back to, okay, now you're in a different role of more of a mediator down to 5 seconds, So you're constantly in that changing roles and changing and acting.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the academy, even in the military, your drill sergeants, your drill instructors, they're all up in your face, yelling in your ear, screaming at you and everything like that. And so what got me was I went back to, I knew this already, that it was a big game, but I went to an opening or first day academy for, I think, class 212. And I go back and I'm standing at the back, and Tommy Harris, he's up in this recruit's face, cadet's face, just yelling and screaming and acting a fool, and all the other DIs. And then about 3 of them, including Tommy Harris, they walk to the back of the platoon where you're not supposed to look, and they just start laughing their butts off. They're acting, and that's all it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Until you have to smack somebody. When you have to use force, that's different. But
so when you did the whatever you had to do the 3 weeks of custody training or something, 2 weeks, something like that after.
Yeah, 2-week custody training I did it before the academy.
So they go in there and they put this really buff guy that we had. Okay, you two guys have to handcuff him, right? And I was pretty quiet. I just did what I had to do. I tried to. My goal in the academy was to hopefully nobody knew my name, right, when I finished, right? That was my goal. Just do what I had to do and get out of there. And so, okay, well, I know how to do this. And at the time, I just, he was more buff than me and the other guy. So I just knelt on his head, and put my shin across his cheekbone. And I said, put your hand behind your back. There came his hand, right? And so for me, that was not. I knew how to control him. I knew what I had to do. But like you said, sometimes tough guys have to get tough to get the job done, right? And I knew I wasn't going to out wrestle this guy, so I was going to cause him a little bit of discomfort to get him to cooperate, and he cooperated. I got my hand up pretty quick, and I told the guy, just all right, now your other hand. As I leaned in a little bit, and now we can't do that because, oh my God, they might die, right? So, but yeah, you have to sometimes if you're going to have to use force, you have to get into that role, right? Scott, what do you think of that? That's what they treat soldiers. You get a bunch of guys who have never played football, never played sports, and you got to teach them how to have a little bit of strength, right, when they face that stuff. Teach a little bit of deviousness, because you almost have to get a little devious as you do that stuff.
Yeah, well, the Marine Corps, Danny, you were in the military. I mean, Marine Corps is kill, kill, kill. That's all they're training you to do, is to kill a human being. And then, people say, oh, that's horrible. Well, that's the Marine Corps since its inception. It came into a tavern to a bunch of drunk guys and said, who wants a rifle to climb up on these masts and shoot people? And everybody's hand went up. That's how the Marine Corps came about. So since day one, its infancy was, we're going to kill people. So all through boot camp, you're trained to kill with a knife. You're trained to kill with your bare hands, a rifle, grenades, anything to kill another human being, you get trained on. And then you come to the police department, and it's like to me, I didn't go, you guys were in probably harder academies than I went through, but to me, the academy wasn't, I don't want to say a joke, but to me, it was like, this is easy. They can't put their hands on you. The DIs can't smack you around. Oh, this is going to be fine. Because I always said, I get yelled at by professionals in the Marine Corps. These guys on the Sheriff's Department, they'd be AAA, maybe AA baseball teams. I got yelled at by pros. So, I mean, they go to school in the Marine Corps, DI school, to learn how to yell at people. I mean,
well, they have to kind of teach you that it's okay to, if you think about it, like in the military, it's not human nature to point a gun at somebody and shoot them, right?
No.
So you have to get over that. And in law enforcement, you have to, it's a little different training, but you have to get people to the point where they're reacting to a threat, and they're okay to react with that threat, even if they're shooting at people. I guess now it's going to be bowling pins, right? That we're shooting at. But
that's okay though, because it tightens up your shot group.
Yeah, it does. Depends on the size of the bowling pin, I guess, right? Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not a small guy, so but I always prided myself on de-escalation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And maybe it was just laziness on my part.
No, it's
because I didn't want to have to write a whole force report on what I did. So I would much rather, and I tried to teach the trainees I had that, hey, it's better to talk them into going to jail than having to fight them to go to jail.
Yeah.
Because now you can just take them to jail, do the booking process, and you're out in a half hour.
Well, that's true. Yeah. The other part of it is whether you win a fight, it doesn't matter when you win a fight, you're going to get hurt. You get hurt in fights. Win or lose, you get hurt, right? And
I
you learn
boxed. I
that.
got punched in the face a lot, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. Even some guy can get a sneaky punch in on you and a sucker punch or whatever, and so any fight you get into, even if it's a small guy, you're going to get hurt because you're grappling on the ground. Lots of times you're grappling on cement. That is, cement and knees don't work well. Cement and shoulders and elbows, that none of that works well, and so you're going to get hurt. So it's better to talk them into jail. But
There's a monetary factor too.
What's that?
When you're fighting on the ground and you're wrestling around with someone in asphalt, concrete, rocks, it doesn't matter. Cut down trees. I've been in one. You're gonna rip your uniform.
And you got to buy a new
uniform. Back in the 80s and 90s, uniform pants were $90 a pair.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And that's a monetary thing. I bought more uniform pants.
Uniform allowance on Christmas because we got it on the 15th. That was Chris. I remember one year I actually bought uniforms with my uniform allowance. My wife was livid. What are we going to do about Christmas now? I needed new uniforms.
I got in this knockdown, drag out fight with this guy, and the door got closed. I might have mentioned this story. And he had all white motif in his place, right? He had slapped his girlfriend around, and then he thought he was going to try and slap me around. Well, he made a critical error. I think I was 23. I was bench pressing 300 pounds, and I was starting my workout on a 100-pound body bag where I would just punch around for 15 minutes. So I knocked the hell out of this guy. He's bleeding all over the place. He bled all over my uniform. He ripped my uniform shirt. And so I wrote my report, and I wrote damage to county property, and I put my uniform on it. And he goes to court. And he pleads, and the judge made him come to the station and apologize to me and write me a check for a new uniform.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was so cool. So he apologizes, and he was gritting his teeth as he apologized because I broke his nose, and he gives me the check, and I broke one of his orbital bones here, So yeah, it was funny. But so I got my thing paid for. But hey, one of the best scenes, we skip by it, and we got to talk about it. So the Vendetta ride is going on, right? And here, this is the Doc Holliday scene. We're at the end, but we got to talk a little bit about Charlton Heston. So they're getting. So Behan's, he rounds up a posse of 30 guys to go after basically 6 guys, and this is what's going on. You got the local people that are now targeting the federal people, which is what we're seeing in a lot of these blue states right now. Oh, we're going to pass all these laws and go after the federal authorities, and Trump's saying, okay, you got 100 guys, I'm going to send 1,000 guys. So he's doubling down, right? You want to play this dumb game? But in this case, they're outnumbered, and they go and hide on Charlton Heston's ranch, the Hooker Ranch, which is a real ranch. And so they did a cameo for Charlton Heston, which I really enjoyed. And he only lasted a few more years before his career was over with too. But the best scene, and it's a true scene, is when his posse gets pinned down by Curly Bill Brocious, who's actually the guy who was in charge of the Cowboys historically, right? And they got him pinned down, and you see it. They show it. He's got him in a crossfire, and they get in this shootout, and it is a true story that Wyatt Earp got up off his feet and waded towards them, and so what is it when you're pinned down? Do you attack the attacker, Scott? You don't hide and let them. You do something aggressive, right? I don't know if they teach that in the military, but that's what he did. And he had his duster on, and he's out there shooting with the shotgun and his handgun. And then the other guys jump up there and charge, and they break this ambush that Brocious had, and they kill Brocious here, right? So that did happen in real life, and in the real life story talked about how he had bullet holes in his duster. So very close. So he got really lucky. But the comment I had is a lot of rounds fired, a lot of misses by the bad guys, right? And that happens in shootings, right? Because as you start slapping the trigger and you get excited and you're far away, I think I heard a stat: 7% of the rounds are misses in a shooting where people are 7 feet apart, or whatever reason. I always remember that. And the shooting only lasts about 7 seconds. I forget what class I was going to where they talked about that. Police shootings, they're usually within 7 feet. 70% of the rounds are usually misses, and the shooting is over within 7 seconds. So I always remember that stat. So what that means is, in a combat situation, these guys are slapping the trigger, they're not aiming, and there's a lot of misses. And that worked to Wyatt's example. A great scene though, right, Scott? And the fact that they came out of that, charging into the ambush worked out well for them in that scene. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no hero or anything, but I wouldn't sit there and just let somebody shoot at me because, I mean, it may be 10, 15 seconds, but I'm going to get pissed off and finally just go, screw this, man. I'm going to fight back. So I, I don't know. I don't,
That's
I
what
don't
Wyatt
thi-
did, though, too, right? But he also went out
right.
with the shotgun, so he went out
But-
first with that smart thing, right?
But
Yeah,
Scott,
I mean-
there's a difference between you and Wyatt. You know, we're military, so you're in the Marine Corps. You're an infantryman from day one.
Yeah,
And that's
true.
that's what was embedded on you. Plus, during all that time, you practiced. You know,
Oh,
when I was in the
yeah.
Army, we didn't practice. I think I shot my M16 one time, or just do basic training, and then after that, I never shot an M16 again. And
Oh, really?
I was an MP. I was an MP. I carried an M16. We never fired live fire through it, but I also had a 45. I shot a 45 in MP school, and I never shot a 45 again until the last year I was in the Army, where we went out to the range to qualify. That was it.
Oh, really?
It
Really?
was crazy. And
Yeah.
but you flip over to the Marine Corps. I live by Camp Pendleton. They're always shooting stuff over there.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Just train.
Every year you had to qualify, and if you didn't qualify, you had to remediate, and then if you had to remediate, you had to shoot twice a year with your M16 until you could do it. So if you remediated and passed, you'd have to go back 6 months later, and if you had to remediate again, you're gone. So you
Yeah. But
and the same with the pistol. Same with the pistol. If you wanted to be qualified with the 45, you go to. But if you didn't pass the course the first time, you never got to carry you weren't qualified to carry a 45 anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, that's changed now, I'm sure, with all the wars. But back in the early 80s, that's the way it worked. And
yeah, I was in the mid 70s, so I was in Jimmy Carter's Army. So
So they were
So
saving
you
money
had
on
to-
ammunition, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
yeah,
impressive.
but the Marine Corps saying is everybody's an infantryman. So, but if
Yeah.
you go on to be like a door gunner, you're still an infantryman.
Right.
If you're an officer and you're a pilot, if you crashed or you ended up on the front line, you're now an infantry officer. You're not a pilot anymore. There's none of this. Well, I'm just a pilot. So whatever senior sergeant's in charge. I mean, look at the Marine Corps in World War II. There'd be platoons that had one guy left. Who are you in charge of? Me? Because we were advanced. We advance. We don't wait. It's
it was usually the lance corporal.
But
usually ends up being a lance corporal in charge.
in the scene, it worked though, right? At charging,
Yeah.
break the ambush, right? And
Yeah.
and it worked out really well for them. Yeah, Curly Bill and the scene, Curly Bill got excited, and that probably did him in. I don't know if that happened in true life, but he did get killed in
The
true
term
life.
is aggressor, and I think
Yeah.
But you
I've had some
think about
training
it,
in that at times.
if you're putting, you set up this whole ambush, and your mindset is, because you're not, like these guys are just thugs, basically, is okay. We're going to get him in this trap, and we're just going to riddle him with bullets. So that's your mindset, is you have the advantage, right?
Yeah.
And so you're plugging away at them, thinking in your mind that, hey, the moment they get up, we're just going to kill them, and this is going to be all over. And then all of a sudden somebody's aggressing you, and you got to switch that mindset of, now I'm being attacked. And most of them took off because they're like, oh shit, we're going to get killed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you ever watch those, wars, is when it's a rout is when people get killed. So, when you, if you're getting attacked and you got a good rear guard and you slow it down, your army can survive. But when you start running, it's called a rout, whether it's medieval times or even now, and a lot more people get killed. So the goal is, if you're overwhelmed, you have to fight a rear guard, you have to fight a rear action to slow them down, to try and preserve. You don't want to be the guy fighting the rear action, but you got to do that, right? So that's what, I mean, they did that in Korea. They had to fight out of the Chosan Reservoir, and somebody had to be the one taking the brunt of the Chinese as they worked their way to the.
I had an uncle that was there, and
yeah, so I mean that's part of it. And in this case, we saw Wyatt. He took it on. But there's another scene we got to talk about. Now the film is rolled through, but we got to talk about another couple of scenes. We got, I think, just enough time. And this was Johnny Ringo. See, so it's a loose adaptation. I don't think Johnny Ringo said to Wyatt, "Come and meet me here, and we'll do a regular old gunfight." Now that's I don't think that happened. But I do love the scene. Wyatt is he's going to go. He's going to do it. He thinks he's going to lose, right? He doesn't think he can take him on, and but he's going to go anyways. So that's the good guy, right? That's the good hat. But Doc Holliday intercedes, and I really like the scene because I like the build up where Johnny Ringo is drunk and he challenges Wyatt, and Wyatt refuses to. But Doc Holliday says, "I'm your Huckleberry." That's just my game, right? So I love the writing. This is great stuff. I'm your Huckleberry. I can't imagine saying that out to some gangster. I'm your Huckleberry. Come on, let's get it on right now, right? But he does that, and Doc Holliday shows up to take on Johnny Ringo. And none of this happened, right? When I did the research, Johnny Ringo apparently died of suicide and whatever. So this is completely fiction, but it's great movie making. I don't have my fight is not with you, Holliday, and you can see a little bit of fear in Johnny Ringo's. He knows he's sober, and he knows that a fight with Doc Holliday, or in his mind, a fight with Doc Holliday is much more risky than a fight with Wyatt Earp, a gunfight. And you see a little bit of fear. Why Johnny Ringo looks like somebody just walked over your grave. Great. I just love these lines. Well, my fight's now
Just the way he says it with the pale face and this clammy looking skin. And
my fight is not with you, Holliday. Well, I beg to differ.
Right.
We started the game. We didn't get a chance to finish. I just love that. I love the writing. I love the yeah. It's fun and it's watching. You're just like, oh, I'd love to say these words to somebody, right? Yeah, it's just my game. Johnny Ringo looks like he just walked over your grave. That's fun stuff. And then of course and I love because you remember the old westerns when they're going to have the shootout. They did the same kind of thing. They look at each guy as they're getting ready to do the shootout. Just say when, right? Is what Doc Holliday says, right? But I love so Holliday's got his gun a kind of a cross draw thing, right? And I always thought cross draw, but he's standing sideways, right? So when he's in a shootout, he's standing sideways, and he just has to pull out his gun and fire center of mass. So he actually, as he's thought it out, right? As what that looked like to me. He's not trying to cross draw from this thing to do this. He's sideways and he's crossing, and he's just pulling up and shooting, right? So from a perspective, that's probably not too bad. But I just liked when they show he's just tapping his finger on the butt of his gun. Just say when. And I just love this scene. Good scene. What do you think, Scott? It's a good scene?
Oh, yeah. It's a great scene. But, he does, when he turns like that, he's lessening his target, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Now Johnny Ringo's got to hit a much smaller target than.
Yeah.
So
my dad was on the Detroit police pistol team, and so he's got some trophies. And the trophies are where they're shooting from the Weaver method. So the Weaver method is you're sideways, right? And you're presenting as little target as possible, and this is how you shoot. Instead of like we were all taught like this, he was taught like this. And my dad had a bullet trap in the basement, so he would do lower loads of ammo, where they didn't have as much of a charge, and then he would practice in the basement. So, but yeah, it's so yeah, you're right. So he's presenting a smaller target, right, as he's aiming, and I don't know. I think and you think about people if they work through logically, how do I do with the shooting? Doc Holliday looks like he had that worked out, but I don't know. Great scene, right, Danny? Good climax.
Yeah, that was back into Doc Holliday's attitude again. It's just like, I don't care. I'm dying anyway. So
I know.
Let's get it done. And I'm going to beat that.
And probably, I bet you Ringo knew. They all knew that. Okay, this guy doesn't care. The fear doesn't bother him, which makes his hands going to be steadier, right? And
again, he's going to die with his boots on there. So
right. So he's got nothing to lose, right? Because everybody knows he's dying.
Right. Yeah.
And then because Johnny Ringo in the movie keeps calling him Lunger.
Yeah.
So Johnny Ringo knows he's dying of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
So he's got nothing to lose against Johnny. So he's calm as a cucumber because he's like, my legend will be me and the famous gunslinger Johnny Ringo got in a shootout and Doc Holliday died.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an honorable way to die in a shootout.
I
And he
go out in a
good how-
heroic way. I go out in a heroic way.
exactly. So he's hoping that somebody kills him, but nobody did.
And he's a despicable character, but his relationship with the Earps legitimizes him, right? That's the whole thing with the badge. I cannot,
way back either in the Wichita days or the Dodge
Yeah.
City days with Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp went down into another state, I forget which one, and Doc Holliday saved his life. So
Yep.
Wyatt Earp is somewhat indebted into
yes,
Doc Holliday from 10, 15 years
Right.
before, or probably 10 years before.
but he also, and I'm sure Earp was there over the years, right? But he, he puts the badge on. It's just my hypocrisy can only go so far, right? So, but he, and it was hypocrite. He was a gambler, a drinker, a carouser, a gun shooter, and his girlfriend was a prostitute, which I'm sure he lived off her a little bit here and there, right? So he was but he got a little bit of. His I don't want to say his soul is redeemed by hanging out with the Earps, but his reputation improved greatly as he hung out with the Earps, in my opinion, right? New associations made him look a little better, right, than bad associations. So, but we got it. So in the end, you see this relationship. Doc Holliday's up in Colorado. He's in Greenwood or something like that. He's in the sanitarium there. He's dying. He doesn't, and you're right. You see the scene, Danny. You mentioned it, where he's looking down at his feet, and he's got bare feet. He's not going to die with his boots on. He's going to die in that bed. He's not getting out of that bed, and he knows it. But he's also, I think, resigned to that fact at this point, and he's reflective of. I think they're reflective of their relationship, and they were there for each other, right? Almost brothers in arms, right? Wyatt and Doc Holliday, and respect. And Holliday, it shows that Earp stays there with Holliday towards the end, right? And he's in the movie. What does it says? Why are you out here, Doc? Well, Wyatt's my friend. He goes, well, I got plenty of friends. Well, I don't. So I mean that right? I don't. That kind of lays out that relationship. So it's a good scene as they close out the movie with Doc Holliday. But I also think it's a good scene with Josie, because he goes and finds her, and they end up being together to do room service, whatever. And that's pretty much it. They end up being vagabonds almost, going all over the country before they settle in LA, and they're with each other for the next 40 years, right? So that in the end of the movie, they show those intimate relationships that Wyatt had that dramatically influenced his life, and that was with Doc Holliday and Josie. So they closed out the movie, I think, in a pretty good, positive way. And then obviously Robert Mitchum talks about how he did end up in Hollywood, and he did. I want to say it was North Hollywood. I can't remember where he lived at, where his house was at, but he ended up in California, and he influenced the modern day Westerns, because he influenced the people who were putting those Westerns together at the time. So good close out to the movie, right? So some intimacy between friends and lovers, right?
Yeah. I like it.
Yep. What do you think? What do you think, Scott? Good.
No,
good
I liked it. It was, nowadays it's a lot of these movies end, and you're like, that's it.
What happened?
I mean, it closed everything out. It wrapped everything up at the end. That hey, Wyatt stopped being a gun. Stopped doing what he was doing, and now he became a room service, living that high life, and then going to Hollywood and influencing the Hollywood, which isn't that hard to do, I guess. But, he did that, and they went on to have this love affair for 40 years. So it's like, so that was wrapped up, and then their scene with Doc, and I can't remember the line that Kurt Russell says to Doc when he's laying there, but the line flashed up when he says, I'm not calling you a hypocrite, but you sure sound like one. When he's laying there, and it's like, they kind of signed up, they're the good guys, but they're kind of too in the whole thing. Like, just getting the marshal badge so he could go and murder all the guys that murdered his brother. I mean,
the vendetta ride.
It's going to be legal because I got this U.S. Marshal badge. So.
Well, they have the U.S. Marshals have such an interesting history. I mean, I've done a couple of shows on them. I had a couple U.S. Marshals on both my shows, and one of them was this history nut of the U.S. Marshals, and he did think he did 30 years in the U.S. Marshals, and so I brought him on when we did the U.S. Marshals, and I brought him on when there was 2 shows with I forget the name of the actor who played in U.S. Marshals, but he gave the whole history, and he talked about there was a U.S. Marshal, the black guy, I can't remember his name now. They got a mini series on him, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but just a great history.
That was a good miniseries too.
It's a great history of that police agency, and they kind of get short play now because of the DEA and the FBI. People don't talk about the U.S. Marshals because the roles have narrowed, but they appoint U.S. Marshals still today. It's the very first federal law enforcement agency was the U.S. Marshals. And they appoint one for all the different regions, and then that guy builds his team underneath them and stuff. But hey, this was a great movie. It does show the conflict. We didn't get as much in the conflict between the locals and the feds as I thought we would in the movie, because the movie's so good. There's so many things to talk about. But it does show the tension between the local or state authorities and county authorities versus federal authorities. And sometimes that tension is because of corruption. That's what we saw in Cochise County in Arizona. And I think that's what we're seeing to a great degree in Minnesota. How much the politicians benefit from that corruption, I don't know, but they certainly went out of the way to protect it. And that's and so I think Trump's doing a great job and doubling down and going after him. And but this movie does show this tension's been going on for a long time. Right, Danny? And thanks for joining me, Danny. And
thank you. I appreciate it, Chief.
And thanks for joining me, Scott. Stick around for a quick debrief. We are at our 2-hour mark. Martine, we ran out of time. We had such a good time on this show. We'll have to do this one again with another crew. But all right, guys, thanks for joining me. Stick around for a debrief, and we'll see you next week on Morning Coffee with the Chief.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Matt Damon.